Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Usually I do my videos in the dark of night, especially in my kitchen. But on this rare occasion that you see me have light on, is for a specific reason. It's to show off the 4K of Once Upon a Time in the West, my favorite Western of all time. So what's new about the 4K? So here we go. There is commentary by the host of the Spaghetti Western podcast, which is new. Commentary with contributions from John Carpenter. Now, I'm curious to see what got added there because John was on the DVD that I already own of this. So there's also John Millis and Alex Cox. There's film historians Sir Christopher Fryland and Dr. Sheldon. All okay, I'm sure that's right. And cast and crew. What's what's also new is a look back with Leonard uh, Maltin, an opera of violence, the wagons of sin, something to do with death, railroad revolution, revolutionizing the West, and locations then and now production gallery theatrical trailer. Look at this beautiful piece of artwork. Not only that, this is really cool. And obviously, it's a slipcover, so there's the DVD. There's the back, as you can see. You know, I really enjoyed picking this up for a lot of reasons. Yes, it's my favorite Western. Was this the first Western I ever saw? No, the first Western I ever saw was The Sons of Katie Elder, um, showed to me by my grandfather. Now, so you might say, Joel, why is this your favorite Western? And my answer to this is it's a Western I've always enjoyed. My favorite actor growing up was Henry Fonda. And watching Henry Fonda for the duration of his career would play nothing but good guys. So when you saw Henry Fonda's name in the titles, you knew he was going to be a good guy for the most of the film, or for all of it. Here comes Once Upon a Time in the West, which is by the way, this movie is the first Western that a woman receives top billing when Claudia Carnell. And she does a wonderful job playing the character of Jill McBain in this movie. For those who don't, now I will get back to Jill here in a moment. So Henry Fonda did many interviews while he was alive about Once Upon a Time in the West. And one of the interviews he gave, he was quoted in saying, he a friend of his who had worked with Sergio Leone, and my guess would be Eli Wallach. Fonda had not said in those interviews, or at least the ones I watched. I want to believe it was Eli Wallach who told him, just hell with the script, just go. Um, and Fonda did go, and he did fall in love with Sergio Leone. But Fonda, when Fonda read the script, he saw he was playing a heavy for the first time. So he went to an optometrist. He got his eyes, you know, he got contacts put in his eyes. He grew a mustache. He had a little divot. As he put it, he looked like the guy who shot Lincoln. And but Leone took one look at him and said, "Off, off. I don't want a mustache. I don't want a little divot. I don't want your fake eyes. I want your baby blue eyes. That's what I'm paying for." And Fonda didn't understand why he was doing this until he finally Fonda saw the film himself and, you know, realized, when you see the McBain family massacred, you see these five men coming from the sagebrush and you can't really see who they are. And keep in mind, when I first watched this beautiful, beautiful movie, and it is just as beautiful here as it ever was, by the way, great, great job, guys, getting this to 4K. This was to Justin Beam and his crew, the people at Paramount. Oh, I gotta give it to you. Take a fucking bow. Uh, and you heard that. Um, you know, when I was, again, like I said, Fonda was a good guy for most of his career. So when you see these five men after the family gets massacred, and you've already seen Henry Fonda's Imitados, you're just thinking, okay, Henry Fonda's going to help Charles Bronson's character somehow. And then as the camera's turning, there's Henry Fonda, and Fonda has given the interview. He says people would say, Jesus Christ, it's Henry Fonda. And that was sort of my reaction when I first saw this as a kid. That I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's Henry Fonda. He's playing a villain. And what a villain he was in this movie as the villainous Frank. I mean, what a character. Fonda wouldn't play too many more villains after this. I think he played one more, and it was a character with the same name. It wasn't the same exact character, but I do wish he would have played more villains because he was fucking phenomenal in this movie as the antagonist Frank. Um, what is Once Upon a Time in the West other than a western? It's a lot of things. Let me get to Claudia Carnell first, and I'm going to get to Charles Bronson and Jason Robards, obviously, as I'm talking about this wonderful fucking movie. Again, I do want to thank the people at Paramount. Thank Justin Beeman, his Reverend Entertainment. This was a fucking awesome job. You guys nailed it. You fucking nailed it. Um, you see Claudia Carnell's character Jill McBain here with a rifle, or with a gun, and she does shoot a match out of Harmonica's hand in the dark. Jill McBain is no damsel in distress. That is something that I think can be sort of misleading about Once Upon a Time in the West. Claudia Carnell, yeah, her name is in top billing, but it's for a reason. She is, in every sense, the star of this movie, and she shows it in every way. Her work with Bronson, her work with Fonda, her work with Roberts. I'm not taking anything away from the men in this movie. They all did a phenomenal job. The late Charles Bronson, the late Henry Fonda, the late Jason Roberts. They did a great job. I love all three actors. Again, Henry's my favorite. I've watched Jason Roberts' movies. I've watched Henry Fonda's movies. I've watched Charles Bronson's movies. And but Claudia Carnell, she plays a she plays a whore from New Orleans. And no, I'm not making that up. That's her character. Her character is Jill. And you learn that she's coming from New Orleans and she's married in this man named Brett McBain. And you do meet Brett McBain before you meet the character of Jill. You do see the McBain family massacre. When Jill shows up, they're already dead. And what nobody knew is that they were married a month ago in New Orleans. That's one of the plot twists in this movie. And there's so much good shit in this movie. Again, I'm going to get into, yes, you should own this. Yes, it's a masterpiece. Yes, you should go watch Once Upon a Time in the West. Not just because it's my favorite Western, because I think once you guys watch this, it may be yours. um, or maybe at least a close second to whatever you have as your top one. Maybe. Um, I will say that uh, Claudia Carnell's Jill, yes, Claudia Carnell was absolutely stunning in this movie. She looks absolutely beautiful, but it's her facial features that sell. I don't mean her beauty necessarily. I mean the look she gives, the concerned look, and when she comes upon the McBain family, as they're massacred, and she sees all these people, she spills the beans. They say, "Poor little miss," and she said, Mrs. Jill, Mrs. McBain," and they said, "Oh, but we thought." She goes, "I know. It was to be a surprise that me and McBain were married a month ago in New Orleans." Here's this girl who worked as a whore and was looking for a better life and found a man who, as she put it, told her she deserved better, and and they both fell in love. They got married in New Orleans. She comes to McBain's farm to find the family massacred. She doesn't know why, and she looks for the why. And at the center of this story, obviously, is Henry Fonda's Frank, but it's also his boss that he works for. His boss is a railroad tycoon who wants to see the Pacific Ocean because he has tuberculosis of the bone. And make no mistake, the railroad tycoon knows the kind of man Frank is. He knows who he hired. He hired a ruthless killer to do his dirty work. I would say, my buddy Butch Rosenbaum says there's MacGuffins in the stories. I would say that's the railroad tycoon. He's the MacGuffin of this story. I'm not saying he's not bad. He is. Don't get me wrong. He's a bit of an antagonist, but he's also he's more here to move the story along, if anything else. And some might say, well, Harmonica's a bit of a MacGuffin. No, Harmonica is our hero, Charles Bronson's character in this. He protagonist, antagonist. Now, what's interesting about Jason Robards' character is Jason Robards plays a character named Cheyenne, who is the most wanted outlaw in the Wild Wild West in this story. And I love Jason Robards' performance. He is absolutely entertaining and fun to watch in this movie. And he always does give an entertaining performance anytime he's on screen, any character he's ever played. It's something he does time and time again in his performances. See A Thousand Clowns. He was in the movie Philadelphia. I believe he made a brief cameo in the Hunt. What is it? Um, it's the movie where Denzel Washington's on the submarine. I'm blanking the name. Him and Hugh Jackman's character have a fight. But anyway, Jason Robards is an amazing actor. Again, he plays a character I absolutely love in this movie, Cheyenne. I like all the characters in this movie. Jill is again, Claudia Carnell is absolutely stunning. She's no damsel in distress. And is this a revenge movie? Absolutely, this is a revenge movie. Harmonica has been spending his life searching for the villainous Frank. Also, this film has a bit of a theme. I don't mean just the score. First of all, Ennio Morricone did the score. Every character had their own score, and this was well before John Carpenter's Halloween. Frank has a theme. Harmonica has a theme. Jill has a theme. Cheyenne has a theme. 4 different characters have their own theme, and it's absolutely amazing. We obviously have the movie theme. This, to me, Ennio Morricone did some great work, but this is his finest score ever. And you might say, oh, you're not being biased. This is your favorite Western. Of course, you're going to say that. Go buy this and listen to it. If you don't agree, please get back to me. So Bronson's character, Harmonica, I said he's looking for Frank's character. If you've never seen this movie, Harmonica's character, when his character was a small boy, his brother was hanged by Frank and his henchmen. Henchmen that Harmonica names when he meets Frank, when he sees Frank twice before the shootout, before the ultimate duel takes place. And he names the men who he killed. And, and Fonda, the way Fonda sells this is amazing. He says, Dave Jenkins dead long time ago. Who are you? Calder Benson's dead too. He says that they were alive until they met you, Frank. And Frank smacks him. And then the next time in the saloon, he names 2 more men. And Frank says again, more dead men. Harmonica sort of repeats himself. They were alive until they met you, Frank. Harmonica has been hunting Frank for years. He's been making these appointments. Frank hasn't been keeping them. And finally, Harmonica catches up with him. There's a great line. There's a lot of great lines in this movie. The cinematography is insane in this movie. You should absolutely own Once Upon a Time in the West on 4K. There's also the Blu-ray disc here. Again, I'm going to show you the slipcover. I'm going to show you the DVD. It looks absolutely stunning, guys. Again, Great job to Justin and his team, Reverend Entertainment. Great job by Paramount. This was long overdue. So guys, suggestion for the next Western: Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Just saying, huh? Huh? Or El Dorado, maybe. Uh, why not, right? But this movie, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. No, but this movie is absolutely amazing. It's a great movie. I can't say enough about it, but who's my favorite? They're all. I hate to say this, but they're all my favorite characters. I enjoy them all. I enjoy Fonda's take on his villainous role, his first villain role ever. Again, I just wish he'd have did it more because this you got to understand to sort of close this out. This was a huge roll of the dice for one Henry Fonda. This was late in his career, and he had never played a villain before. But, once upon a time, no one knew how good Henry Fonda could be at being bad until this movie, and he was. His character, Frank, is bad to the bone. Some of the coldest lines are said by him. Um, One of my favorite camera angles they pull off is when Frank captures Jill and they're sort of sideways and they tilt the camera and they go in because what he does is he sleeps with her and she gives up her body basically to save her life. Like, okay, you want to have your way with me, fine, just let me live. And you might say that's a very damsel moment. No, in every way she saves herself. Harmonica doesn't save her. Cheyenne doesn't save her. She saves herself. It's one of the most, you admire her courageousness because Jill knows what she was. Jill never forgot what she did in New Orleans, but she also knew what it meant to survive in that kind of atmosphere in New Orleans. And she sort of brought that to the countryside too, but she also knew how to pull a trigger as well, as you see in this movie. It's a shame she only gets to shoot a match out of Harmonica's hand, but it's still a cool night scene. I also love the scene where Jill's laying on the bed and it's through the mesh of the top. I love that scene. What's my favorite scene? I showed one of my favorite scenes um on Facebook and Instagram. So what's my favorite scene in this movie? There's so many great scenes in this movie. It literally is hard to pick one. But my favorite scene, and yes, I'm a Henry Fonda fan, so I'm going to say now, my favorite scene is when they reveal Henry Fonda as the villain, as Frank. I think it's one of the most chilling moments in a movie. Even, they turn the camera, the henchman says, "What are we going to do with this one, Frank?" He spits. "Well, now that you've called me by name," you hear the click of the gun, and bang. You see the smoke coming out the barrel, and then you see the train that is bringing Jill McBain to to the to the west, if you will, from New Orleans to what is supposed to be Arizona. Um, Again, great fucking movie. Great job by Paramount. Great job by Justin and his team. This was a home run and damn sure worth it. Again, just awesome guys. Really awesome. I will leave a link in the description box where you can go get this bad boy. I highly recommend you pick up Once Upon a Time in the West. You brought two. Looks like we're shy one horse. You brought two too many, as Charles Bronson harmonica says. But you cannot get to. You can't buy enough of these. Let me say this because this is a beautiful movie. Guys, go pick this up if you haven't. Great film. Have a nice night.